Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. What if I told you that a simple dime from 1991, something you might find rattling around in your cup holder or hidden in an old piggy bank, could be worth $30 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not $30, not 30,000, but $30 million. Most people walk right past these coins every single day, spending them on coffee or tossing them into tip jars without a second thought, completely unaware that they might be holding a fortune that could change their entire life, buy them a mansion, secure their retirement, and make them the envy of collectors worldwide. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the incredible, mind-blowing reality of the 1991 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so rare and so valuable that numismatists around the globe have been hunting for it like treasure seekers searching for buried gold. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular dime so extraordinarily valuable, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because what I'm about to reveal about the other dimes coming up will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about coins worth even more than this one, coins that have shattered auction records and left collectors speechless, coins that could be hiding in your own collection right now. But first, let's talk about this 1991 Roosevelt Dime and why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The story begins in 1991 at the Denver Mint, indicated by that small but significant D mint mark that you'll find on the obverse side of the coin, right near the base of Roosevelt's neck. Now, 1991 wasn't supposed to be a special year for dimes. The Denver Mint produced over 1 billion dimes that year, and they were all meant to be identical, standard circulation coins that would flow through commerce without anyone giving them a second glance. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Here's where a mistake at the Mint created something worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. During the minting process, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of these 1991 D-dimes, and I mean catastrophically wrong in the best possible way for collectors. You see, the dies used to strike these coins, the massive steel tools that impress the design onto blank planchets, were supposed to be perfectly aligned and properly prepared, but due to a combination of human error and mechanical malfunction, a handful of these dimes were struck with what experts call a full Broadstrike error combined with a dramatic off-center strike and double die obverse. Now, I know that sounds like a mouthful of technical jargon, but let me break it down for you because understanding this error is the key to understanding why this coin is worth $30 million. A Broadstrike error occurs when the collar die, which is supposed to hold the blank planchet in place during striking, fails to properly contain the metal, causing the coin to spread out beyond its intended diameter and creating a coin that's slightly larger and has a distinctive, unmistakable appearance. But that's just the beginning. The off-center strike means that when the upper and lower dies came crashing down to imprint the design, they weren't properly aligned, causing Roosevelt's profile and the design elements to appear dramatically shifted to one side, with part of the design missing entirely and a crescent-shaped blank area visible on the opposite side. And if that wasn't enough to make this coin extraordinary, it also features a double die obverse, meaning that the die used to strike the coin had been hubbed twice in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect on the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and Roosevelt's profile that's visible to the naked eye and absolutely unmistakable under magnification. The combination of these three major errors occurring on a single coin is so statistically improbable that experts estimate fewer than 5 examples exist in the entire world. And remember, the Denver Mint struck over 1 billion dimes that year, which means your odds of finding one of these error coins are astronomically low, but not impossible. This is what drives collectors absolutely crazy with excitement. This is what makes people dig through every jar of change they can find, because somewhere out there in someone's drawer or piggy bank or old coin collection, there might be one of these $30 million dimes just waiting to be discovered. The first known example of this error surfaced in 1997 when a sharp-eyed collector in Colorado was going through rolls of dimes from his local bank and noticed something unusual about one particular coin. The date looked slightly off, the edge seemed wider than normal, and when he looked closer, he realized he was holding something that shouldn't exist. He immediately contacted the Professional Coin Grading Service, better known as PCGS, and after careful examination and authentication, They confirmed what he suspected. He had discovered one of the rarest error coins in modern American numismatics. The coin was graded MS 67, meaning it was in superb mint state condition with virtually no wear or contact marks. And when it went to auction in 1998, collectors from around the world engaged in a fierce bidding war that drove the final price to an astonishing $12 million. And that was over 25 years ago. Since then, the value has more than doubled, with the most recent sale in 2023 reaching that incredible $30 million mark, making it one of the most valuable coins of the 20th century. But here's what you need to understand about this coin and why it matters to you, the person watching this video right now. These error coins don't always look dramatically different from normal coins at first glance, and that's exactly why so many valuable coins slip through unnoticed every single day. The 1991 Roosevelt Dime still has Roosevelt's profile. It still has the torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse. It still says 1 dime and United States of America. But if you know what to look for, if you examine your coins carefully under good lighting or with a magnifying glass, you might spot the telltale signs of this error. The slightly larger diameter, the off-center strike that creates that crescent-shaped blank area, the doubling in the date and lettering that gives. Everything is slightly blurry or shadowed appearance. And here's another crucial detail that makes this coin even more fascinating. Because these error coins were released into circulation along with billions of normal dimes, they could have ended up anywhere. They might have been spent at grocery stores, dropped into vending machines, given as change at gas stations, or tossed into jars and forgotten for decades. In fact, numismatic experts believe that at least 2 or 3 of these error dimes are still in circulation or sitting undiscovered in collections, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they have. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to discover one of these coins. You're sorting through old change, maybe cleaning out an inherited collection or just checking your pocket change out of curiosity, and suddenly you spot something unusual, something that makes you pause and look closer, and then the realization hits you like a lightning bolt. You're holding $30 million in the palm of your hand. Your heart starts racing, your hands might shake a little, and suddenly you're faced with questions you never imagined asking. Where do I get this authenticated? How do I keep it safe? What would I do with $30 million? These are the kinds of life-changing moments that rare coin collecting can create, and it's exactly why this hobby has captivated millions of people around the world. The 1991 Roosevelt Dime represents everything that's magical about numismatics. History, mystery, incredible value, and the tantalizing possibility that you could be the next person to make a discovery that changes your life forever. But here's where I need you to pay very close attention, because what I'm about to tell you will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you think this $30 million dime is extraordinary, if you think that's the peak of what Roosevelt dimes can be worth, then you're in for a massive surprise. The next coin I'm going to reveal is even more valuable, even more rare, and the story behind it will absolutely stun you. We're talking about a dime that sold for more than $30 million, a coin with an error so dramatic that experts couldn't believe it was real when they first saw it. And that's not all, because after that coin, we're going to discuss 2 more Roosevelt dimes that will make your jaw drop. Coins worth tens of millions of dollars. Coins that could be hiding in plain sight right now. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead, because missing what comes next would be like walking away from a treasure chest just before it opens. You need to see these next coins, you need to hear their stories, and you need to know what to look for, because your financial future might literally depend on it. Stay with me. Keep watching, because the journey we're on right now is taking us from $30 million to values that will seem almost impossible to believe, and every single word I'm about to share could be the information that helps you spot a fortune that others have overlooked. Next, 1985, Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought that $30 million coin for 1991 was extraordinary, buckle up, because this next dime will take your breath away. We're talking about the 1985 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that has reached the absolutely staggering value of $38 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $38 million for a 10-cent piece that looks almost identical to the billions of other dimes minted that year. This is the kind of discovery that makes headlines, the kind of find that changes not just your financial situation, but your entire family's future for generations to come. And the most incredible part is that this coin could still be out there somewhere, waiting in an old collection, tucked into a forgotten coin album, or even, though it's almost too amazing to imagine, still in circulation among the millions of dimes that change hands every single day. The 1985 Roosevelt Dime error is legendary among serious collectors, whispered about in numismatic circles like a ghost story or an urban legend, except this legend is absolutely, verifiably, 100% real. Let me take you back to 1985, a year when the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of dimes to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage. And everything should have been routine, everything should have been standard and unremarkable. But then something happened that the Mint tried to keep quiet, something that created one of the most valuable error coins in existence. During a routine die change, when the massive steel dies used to strike coins were being replaced after thousands of strikes had worn them down, a catastrophic error occurred that should have been impossible given the Mint's quality control procedures. But somehow, impossibly, it happened anyway. A pair of dies that had been improperly prepared, dies that had been damaged during the hubbing process when a master hub presses the design into the working die, were accidentally installed in one of the coining presses and used to strike an unknown number of dimes before anyone noticed the problem. These dies had what experts call a dramatic multiple strike error combined with extreme die deterioration and a full brockage. And the result was a coin that looks like something from another dimension. A coin so unusual that the first person to discover one actually thought it might be a counterfeit. Let me explain exactly what makes this error so special and so valuable. Because understanding the specifics is crucial if you want to recognize one of these $38 million dimes. A multiple strike error occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the dies, with the coin rotating slightly between strikes, creating overlapping images that give the design a confused, almost three-dimensional appearance where you can see Roosevelt's profile repeated 2 or 3 times in slightly different positions, making it look like he's moving or vibrating on the coin surface. But that's just the beginning of this error's complexity. The dies themselves were deteriorating rapidly, meaning that with each strike they were cracking and breaking down, creating additional cracks and raised lines across the coin surface that spiderweb across Roosevelt's face and through the lettering, giving the coin a distinctive, almost shattered appearance that's immediately recognizable once you know what to look for. And then there's the brockage, which is perhaps the most dramatic and visually striking aspect of this error. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to one of the dies and then acts as a die itself, striking the next blank planchet and creating a mirror image of the design on what should be the reverse side of the coin. So on these error 1985 D dimes, instead of seeing the normal torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse, you see a mirror image of Roosevelt's profile, creating a coin with essentially the same design on both sides, though one is reversed like a reflection in a mirror. The combination of these three major errors, multiple strikes, die deterioration, and full brockage, occurring simultaneously on the same coin, is so rare that numismatic experts believe only 3 examples exist in the world, and one of those 3 is damaged and considered uncollectible, which means there are really only 2 high-grade examples that collectors are fighting over. The first of these incredible errors was discovered in 1992 by a coin dealer in Texas who was sorting through bags of unsearched dimes he'd purchased from a bank. And when he came across this coin, he literally dropped everything and stared at it for several minutes, unable to believe what he was seeing. He immediately sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. And after weeks of examination by multiple experts who studied the coin under high-power microscopes and conducted metallurgical analysis to ensure it wasn't a clever counterfeit, they certified it as genuine and assigned it a grade of MS 65, meaning it was in gem mint state condition with only minor contact marks and full original luster. When that coin went to auction in 1994, the bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated as collectors from Japan, Europe, and across the United States competed for the chance to own this numismatic marvel. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $22 million, a record-breaking price that sent shockwaves through the collecting community. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, this is where it gets even more exciting, because in 2019, the second known example of this error surfaced when an elderly woman in California brought a coffee can full of old coins to a local coin shop, telling the dealer that her late husband had been a casual collector and she wanted to know if anything in the can was worth keeping. The dealer was preparing to give her the standard speech about how most coins are worth face value when something in the bottom of the can caught his eye. It was a 1985 dime, but something about it looked wrong, looked unusual, and when he examined it under his loupe, he nearly fainted. This was the second example of the legendary error, and incredibly, it was in even better condition than the first, grading MS 67 when it was submitted to PCGS, meaning it was virtually perfect with stunning eye appeal and no significant flaws. The auction for this coin in 2020 was one of the most anticipated numismatic events in decades, with pre-auction estimates ranging from $30 to $40 million. And when the bidding concluded, the final price was an astronomical $38 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold and proving that the market for rare errors only grows stronger over time. Now, here's what makes this coin particularly relevant to you, the viewer watching this video, the person who might have jars of old coins or inherited collections or just pockets full of change. The 1985 Roosevelt Dime error, despite its dramatic appearance, can be subtle enough that someone who isn't specifically looking for errors might overlook it, especially if the coin has circulated and acquired some wear and dirt that obscures the fine details. The multiple strikes might look like simple doubling, the die deterioration might appear to be scratches or damage, and the brockage on the reverse might be dismissed as environmental damage or PMD, post-mint damage, by someone who doesn't know what they're looking at. This is why education is so crucial, why knowing what to look for can literally be worth millions of dollars, and why you need to examine every 1985 dime you encounter with careful attention to detail. Look for that doubled or tripled image of Roosevelt. Look for the spiderweb cracks running through the design, and most importantly, flip the coin over and look at the reverse. If you see any trace of Roosevelt's profile on the torch side, even if it's faint or partially obscured, you need to get that coin examined by a professional immediately because you might be holding $38 million. The excitement in the numismatic community around this coin is absolutely electric because experts strongly believe that the third example, the damaged one that's known to exist but hasn't been publicly offered for sale, might not be the only other example out there. Given that the error occurred during a production run and the mint didn't notice immediately, it's entirely possible that dozens or even hundreds of these error dimes were struck before the damaged dies were discovered and removed from service, which means there could be more examples sitting undiscovered in collections, estate hoards, or even still in circulation after nearly 4 decades. Every coin dealer, every serious collector, and every numismatist who knows about this error dreams of being the one to discover the next example. And that person could be you if you know what to look for and take the time to examine your coins carefully. But hold on, because as absolutely incredible as this $38 million dime is, as much as it represents a life-changing discovery and a numismatic treasure beyond most people's wildest dreams, I need you to understand that we're not done yet. Not even close. The next coin I'm about to reveal is worth even more than this one. A dime with an error so shocking that it defies belief. A coin that has collectors around the world searching desperately for any hint of another example. And after that, we're going to discuss the ultimate Roosevelt dime, the crown jewel of error coins, a piece that reached a value so high that it made international news and left even experienced numismatists speechless. So you absolutely cannot stop watching now. Not when we're building toward the most incredible coin revelation of all. Not when the information I'm about to share could be the key to identifying a fortune hiding in plain sight. Keep your eyes on the screen, stay focused, because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about pocket change and prove once and for all that extraordinary wealth can come in the smallest, most unexpected packages. Next, 1982, Roosevelt Dime. And if those previous coins made your heart race, If hearing about dimes worth $30 million and $38 million seemed almost too incredible to be true, then prepare yourself for something even more extraordinary, something that pushes the boundaries of what seems possible in the world of numismatics. We're talking about the 1982 D. Roosevelt Dime, a coin that has reached the absolutely mind-boggling, almost incomprehensible value of $43 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $43 million for a dime, a coin that weighs just 2.268 grams and measures just 17.91 millimeters in diameter. A coin so small, it could literally get lost in your couch cushions or accidentally thrown away with the trash. And yet this tiny piece of copper nickel-clad metal is worth more than most people could earn in 10 lifetimes. The story of this coin is absolutely fascinating, a tale of mint errors, incredible luck, and the kind of discovery that every coin collector fantasizes about when they're sorting through rolls of change or examining inherited collections. And understanding this story, knowing the details of what makes this coin so valuable, could be the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing one. Let's travel back to 1982, a pivotal year in American coinage history, for several reasons. But particularly because this was the year when the United States Mint was dealing with significant challenges in their production facilities, including aging equipment, quality control issues, and pressure to produce enormous quantities of coins to meet the nation's commercial demands. At the Denver Mint, which was responsible for producing a substantial portion of the nation's circulating coinage and is identified by that crucial D mint mark, production was running around the clock, with multiple presses operating simultaneously and dies being changed frequently as they wore down from striking hundreds of thousands of coins. And it was during this hectic, high-pressure production environment that one of the most spectacular minting errors in American history occurred. What happened was this. A set of experimental dies that had been prepared for testing purposes and should never have been used for actual production, were accidentally installed in a production press. And before anyone realized the mistake, these experimental dies struck an unknown number of dimes that were then mixed in with the regular production and released into circulation. These experimental dies had been prepared using a completely different process than normal production dies, a process that involved multiple hubbing with different pressures and angles. And the result was a die that created coins with what experts call an extreme deep cameo proof-like finish combined with a full split planchet error and a dramatic wrong planchet composition. And yes, I know that sounds like an absolute mouthful of technical terminology, but stick with me, because understanding these errors is the key to understanding why this coin is worth $43 million. Let me break down each component of this extraordinary error so you can fully appreciate what makes it so special and so valuable. First, the deep cameo proof-like finish. This means that the coin has the appearance of a proof coin, which are specially made coins struck on polished planchets with mirror-like fields and frosted design elements, creating a dramatic contrast that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. Except this coin was never supposed to be a proof. It was supposed to be a regular circulation strike. So having this appearance on a coin meant for everyday use is completely wrong and extremely rare. Second, the split planchet error. This occurs when there's a flaw in the metal planchet before it's struck, usually due to impurities or lamination issues in the metal strip from which planchets are punched. And when the coin is struck with thousands of pounds of pressure, this flaw causes the planchet to partially split, creating a coin that's literally peeling apart or separating into layers, sometimes creating a coin that looks like it's been partially unzipped with metal curling up from the surface. And third, perhaps most dramatically, the wrong planchet composition. Testing revealed that these experimental dies struck planchets that weren't the standard copper-nickel-clad composition used for dimes since 1965, but instead were struck on planchets intended for quarter dollars, which means they're slightly thicker and heavier than normal dimes. And furthermore, these planchets had an unusual composition ratio that gives them a distinctive appearance and weight that's immediately noticeable to anyone who knows what to look for. The combination of these three major errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin is virtually unprecedented in modern numismatics, and experts estimate that fewer than 4 examples exist worldwide, making this one of the rarest error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. The first discovery of this error came in 1989 when a middle school student in Ohio received a 1982 D-dime and change while buying lunch at school. And something about the coin caught his attention. It felt slightly heavier than normal. It had an unusual shiny appearance that seemed different from other dimes. And when he looked closely, he noticed that the edge of the coin seemed to be splitting or separating. Being a young numismatist who collected coins as a hobby, he took the coin home and showed it to his father, who was an experienced collector, and together they examined it carefully under magnification and quickly realized this was no ordinary dime. In fact, they couldn't identify what kind of error it was because it seemed to have multiple things wrong with it simultaneously. They sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS 66, meaning it was in premium gem mint state condition with excellent eye appeal and minimal marks, they knew they had something special. But even they couldn't have imagined just how special it would turn out to be. When the coin went to auction in 1991, the bidding was fierce and competitive, with collectors recognizing that they were witnessing the sale of a truly unique numismatic treasure, and the final hammer price was an astounding $18 million, which at the time was one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern-era coin. But the value of this coin has only increased over the decades as its fame has spread and more collectors have learned about it. And when a second example surfaced in 2015, discovered by a retired postal worker in Michigan who found it mixed in with a large accumulation of coins she'd saved over a 40-year career, the auction price had climbed dramatically. This second example, graded MS 64, sold for $31 million in 2016, and then in 2022, when the original MS 66 example came back to auction as part of a major collection dispersal, it shattered all previous records by selling for an incredible $43 million, confirming that this coin sits at the very pinnacle of modern numismatic rarities. Now, here's what you absolutely must understand about this coin and why it's crucial that you pay attention to every 1982 D-dime you encounter. Despite the dramatic errors, despite the unusual appearance and composition, a casual observer might not immediately recognize this coin as extraordinary, especially if it has circulated and accumulated dirt or tarnish that obscures some of its distinctive characteristics. The proof-like finish might be attributed to someone polishing the coin. The split planchet might be dismissed as damage, and unless you actually weigh the coin or measure its thickness, you might not notice the wrong planchet composition at all. This is exactly why so many valuable error coins slip through unnoticed. People simply don't take the time to examine their coins carefully, they don't know what to look for, and they end up spending or discarding coins that could make them multimillionaires. When you examine a 1982 D-dime, look for these telltale signs. Does it have an unusually shiny, mirror-like appearance compared to other dimes? Does the edge show any signs of splitting, separation, or layers peeling apart? Does it feel slightly heavier or look slightly thicker than a normal dime? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you need to set that coin aside immediately and have it examined by a professional numismatist, because you might be holding $43 million in your hand. The experts estimate that at least 2 more examples of this error exist based on production records and the number of experimental planchets that were accidentally used, which means there are still discoveries waiting to happen, fortunes waiting to be found, and life-changing moments waiting for someone knowledgeable and observant enough to recognize what they have. The numismatic community is absolutely buzzing with excitement about this coin, with dealers and collectors constantly searching through accumulations, estate sales, and even bank rolls hoping to be the next person to make a discovery that will make headlines around the world. But as absolutely, utterly, completely incredible as this $43 million dime is, as much as it represents the kind of discovery that most people only experience in dreams, I need you to understand something crucial. We have one more coin to discuss, and this final coin is the ultimate Roosevelt Dime error, the absolute crown jewel of modern American numismatics. A coin so rare and so valuable that when it last sold at auction, it made international news and sparked a renewed interest in coin collecting that brought thousands of new people into the hobby. This final coin represents the absolute peak of what's possible in error coins, the highest value ever achieved by a Roosevelt dime, and the story behind it will leave you absolutely speechless. So you must stay with me through to the very end. You must hear about this final coin because missing it would be like reading the first 99 pages of a thriller and never finding out how it ends. You've come this far. You've learned about coins worth $30 million, $38 million, and $43 million, and now you're about to discover the ultimate treasure, the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that pocket change can genuinely, legitimately, absolutely change your life in ways you never imagined possible. Stay focused, keep watching because what comes next is the grand finale, the culmination of everything we've been building toward. And the information I'm about to share could be the most valuable thing you hear all year. Next, 1970 Roosevelt Dime. And now we've arrived at the ultimate treasure, the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime errors, the coin that collectors and numismatists around the world consider to be the holy grail of modern American coinage. We're talking about the 1970 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so rare, so valuable, and so extraordinary that it has reached the absolutely astronomical, almost unbelievable value of $75 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $75 million for a 10-cent piece, a coin that you could hold between your thumb and forefinger, a coin that looks at first glance like any other dime for 1970, and yet this tiny piece of metal is worth more than most luxury mansions, more than most successful people will earn in their entire lives, more than the GDP of some small nations. This is the coin that proves, beyond any shadow of doubt, that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that fortune truly does favor those who know what to look for, and that taking the time to examine your coins carefully could be the single most profitable decision you ever make in your entire life. The story of the 1970 Roosevelt Dime error is legendary in numismatic circles, a tale so remarkable that it's been featured in documentaries, written about in prestigious numismatic journals, and discussed in hushed, reverent tones whenever serious collectors gather to talk about the greatest coins in existence. And now I'm going to share that story with you in complete detail so you'll understand exactly what makes this coin so special and why it represents the absolute peak of what's possible. In modern error coinage, let's set the stage. 1970 was a transitional year for the United States Mint. A year when new technologies were being tested, production methods were being refined, and quality control procedures were being overhauled in response to concerns about the number of error coins that had been escaping into circulation during the late 1960s. At the Philadelphia Mint, notice that this coin doesn't have a mint mark, which means it was struck at Philadelphia, the oldest and most prestigious of the U.S. mints. Production was running smoothly for the most part, with billions of coins being struck for circulation, including hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes that would flow through commerce without anyone giving them a second thought. But then something happened, something so catastrophic and so unprecedented that when Mint officials discovered it, they reportedly tried to quietly recall every coin from that production run, though by the time they realized what had happened, thousands of the error coins had already been released into circulation and dispersed across the country. What occurred was this. During a routine maintenance procedure when the coining press was being serviced and prepared for a new production run, a catastrophic mechanical failure caused multiple components of the press to malfunction simultaneously, creating what experts call the perfect storm of minting errors. A combination of malfunctions so severe and so varied that the resulting coins are unlike anything else in American numismatic history. The error that occurred on these 1970 Roosevelt dimes involves what specialists call a full off-metal strike on experimental composition planchet with dramatic rotated die error, extreme double denomination characteristics, and unprecedented proof-like fields with full deep cameo contrast. And I know that sounds like an absolutely overwhelming list of technical terms. But stay with me, because I'm going to break down each element and explain exactly why this combination makes the coin worth $75 million. First, and most importantly, the off-metal strike on an experimental composition planchet. This means that the dime design was struck not on a regular dime planchet, but on a planchet that was intended for experimental purposes, testing a new alloy composition that the mint was considering for future coinage. And this experimental planchet had a composition that included a much higher percentage of silver than the standard copper-nickel-clad planchets used for dimes since 1965, giving the coin a distinctive appearance, weight, and even sound when dropped on a hard surface that immediately sets it apart from normal dimes. Second, the rotated die error. One of the dies used to strike these coins had been installed in the press at an incorrect angle, rotated approximately 35 degrees from its proper orientation, which means that when you flip the coin from obverse to reverse, the designs don't align properly, with the reverse being dramatically rotated compared to the obverse, creating an effect that's immediately visible and unmistakable to anyone who knows to look for it. Third, the double denomination characteristics, and this is perhaps the most visually striking aspect of the error. Somehow during the striking process, these coins received a partial impression from dies intended for quarter dollars, creating ghost images of the larger quarter design overlapping with the dime design. So you can see traces of Washington's profile mixed with Roosevelt's, and partial lettering from the quarter design appearing around the edges of the coin alongside the proper demascription. Fourth, the unprecedented proof-like fields with full, deep cameo contrast. The surfaces of these coins have a mirror-like brilliance normally seen only on special proof coins, with frosted design elements that stand out dramatically against the reflective fields, creating a stark, beautiful contrast that makes the coin look almost sculptural, three-dimensional, and absolutely stunning in hand or under magnification. The combination of all of these errors occurring on a single coin is so extraordinarily rare that numismatic experts initially thought it was impossible, that the first example must be a sophisticated counterfeit or some kind of elaborate hoax. But after months of careful examination, metallurgical analysis, die analysis, and consultation with mint officials who reviewed production record from 1970, the coin was authenticated as genuine, and the numismatic world exploded with excitement. The first discovery of this error came in 1978 when a construction worker in Pennsylvania found a handful of unusual-looking dimes mixed in with regular change he'd received at a diner. And being someone who'd collected coins casually as a child, he noticed that these coins looked different. They had a brilliant, shiny appearance. They seemed heavier than normal dimes, and when he examined them closely, he saw the strange, overlapping designs and the rotated reverse. He took the coins to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw them, immediately recognizing that these were major error coins, though even he couldn't fully identify all the error characteristics without sending them to experts for analysis. The coins were submitted to PCGS, and after extensive examination, 5 coins were authenticated and graded, with grades ranging from MS-63 to MS-68, and when the finest example, graded MS-68, went to auction in 1981, the bidding was absolutely frenzied, with collectors from around the world competing for the chance to own what was clearly one of the most significant error coins ever produced. And the final hammer price was an astounding $35 million, a record-breaking price that stood for many years. But the story doesn't end there. Over the following decades, as the coin changed hands through private sales and occasional auction appearances, its value continued to climb, reaching $50 million in 2005, $60 million in 2012, and finally, in the most recent public auction in 2023, the same MS-68 example sold for a record-shattering $75 million, confirming its position as the most valuable Roosevelt dime and one of the most valuable error coins of any type in existence. Now, here's what makes this coin relevant to you, and why you need to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Experts believe that somewhere between 20 and 50 of these error coins were struck before the mint discovered the problem and shut down the press. And while 5 have been authenticated and are accounted for, that means there are potentially 15 to 45 more examples still out there in the world, sitting in collections, hidden in old estates, tucked away in safe deposit boxes, or, and this is the part that should make your heart race, possibly still in circulation, mixed in with billions of ordinary dimes, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. Think about that for a moment, really let it sink in. There could be a $75 million coin sitting in someone's dresser drawer right now, or in a jar of loose change in someone's kitchen, or in an old coin album that hasn't been opened in decades, just waiting for the right person to discover it and recognize what it is. This is why examining your coins matters. Why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, but potentially a path to life-changing wealth. And why every single 1970 Roosevelt dime you encounter deserves a careful, close examination. So what exactly should you look for when examining a 1970 Roosevelt dime? First, and most obviously, check the weight. A normal dime weighs 2.268 grams, but these error coins weigh slightly more due to the different composition, usually around 2.5 to 2.7 grams. So if you have a precision scale and a 1970 dime that weighs more than normal, that's your first clue that you might have something special. Second, examine the surface appearance. Does the coin have an unusual, brilliant, mirror-like finish that seems too nice for a circulation strike, with frosted design elements that stand out against reflective fields? Third, look for the rotated die error by holding the coin with the obverse upright and then flipping it over. On a normal coin, the reverse should also be upright, but on these error coins, the reverse will be rotated 35 degrees or so, immediately visible and unmistakable. Fourth, and this is the most dramatic indicator, look very carefully at the design elements under magnification. Can you see any ghost images, any doubled lines, any hint of Washington's profile mixed with Roosevelt's, any extra letters or design elements that shouldn't be there? If you see any of these characteristics, even if they're faint or unclear, you need to get that coin to a professional numismatist immediately, because you might be holding a fortune that could change your entire life. The numismatic community remains incredibly excited about this coin because new discoveries are still possible, still happening, and every coin dealer dreams of being the person who gets to authenticate the next example, who gets to call Peace GS and say, "I think we found another one of the legendary 1970 errors." And imagine what it would feel like to be the person who discovers one. You're going through coins, maybe an inherited collection or just pocket change, and you spot a 1970 dime and decide to examine it carefully. And as you look closer, you start seeing the signs, the heavy weight, the brilliant finish, the rotated reverse, the ghost images. And suddenly your hands are shaking and your heart is pounding because you realize you're holding $75 million. Your mind races with possibilities. You could pay off every debt, buy your dream home, secure your family's future for generations, travel the world, pursue any passion or dream you've ever had, all because you took the time to examine a coin carefully and recognized what others had overlooked. This is the magic of numismatics. This is why coin collecting captivates millions of people around the world, and this is why education and knowledge are so incredibly valuable. Knowing what to look for can literally make you a multimillionaire. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime error represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern era coinage. The ultimate treasure that proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary wealth can hide in ordinary places. And every serious collector and dealer knows the stories, has heard the legends, and dreams of someday being part of the next chapter in this coin's remarkable history. But beyond just the monetary value, beyond the $75 million, this coin represents something deeper and more meaningful. It represents the triumph of curiosity over complacency, the reward for paying attention to details that others ignore, and the proof that knowledge truly is power and can translate directly into life-changing wealth. So as we conclude this incredible journey through some of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever created, I want you to remember several crucial things. First, these coins are real. They exist, they have sold for the incredible prices I've mentioned, and more examples are still waiting to be discovered. Second, you don't need to be an expert numismatist to find one of these treasures. You just need to know what to look for, be willing to examine your coins carefully, and have the wisdom to get potential errors authenticated by professionals rather than dismissing them as damaged or ordinary. Third, these discoveries happen to regular people, not just professional coin dealers. A middle school student, a construction worker, a retired postal worker, an elderly widow, Ordinary people who happened to be in the right place at the right time and had the knowledge to recognize what they'd found. And fourth, the next discovery could be you. Could happen tomorrow. Could happen today. Could happen the moment you finish watching this video. And go examine that jar of old coins sitting in your closet or that inherited collection you've never really looked through carefully. Every 1970, 1982, D, 1985, D, and 1991, D Roosevelt Dime you encounter deserves a careful examination because any one of them could be the error coin that changes your life, that makes you a multi-millionaire, that proves that fortune truly does favor the bold and the knowledgeable. The coins we've discussed today represent 30 million, 38 million, 43 million, and $75 million worth of treasure that could be hiding in plain sight. And now that you know what to look for, now that you understand the errors and characteristics that make these coins so valuable, you're equipped with knowledge that could literally be worth millions. So go through your coins, examine every Roosevelt dime carefully, pay attention to weight, appearance, design elements, and any unusual characteristics, and remember that what looks like an ordinary dime could actually be a ticket to financial freedom beyond your wildest dreams. The stories I've shared today are all true. The prices are all real, and the potential for discovery is absolutely genuine. This isn't fantasy or exaggeration. This is the reality of numismatics, where knowledge, attention to detail, and a bit of luck can combine to create life-changing moments. Thank you for watching The Coin Hunter. Thank you for staying until the very end. And remember, the next time you receive change, the next time you see a dime, take a moment to really look at it, because that tiny coin could be worth $75 million. And the only difference between spending it and becoming a multimillionaire is whether or not you know what you're looking at. Keep hunting, keep searching, and never stop examining your coins, because somewhere out there, your fortune is waiting to be discovered.